Right, hello there, and welcome. Before we dive in, do me a favor, will you? Let us know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying these tales. It truly helps us bring more of these immersive experiences straight to you. Now imagine this. The year is 1888, a year etched into the very fabric of London, its name whispered in shadowed alleys and amongst the clinking of teacups. You're not just hearing about it, you're there asterisk. You're in the heart of the beast, where gas lamps struggle to pierce the greasy, yellow-grey shroud that's descended upon the city. The taste, you realize, is what hits you first. A dry, acrid film coats your tongue, a gritty residue that feels like pulverized soot and damp ash. It's the very essence of this London night, a pervasive, bitter tang of smoke and something else, something metallic, coppery, clinging to the back of your throat. You try to swallow it away, but it merely churns with the phlegm, a constant, unpleasant reminder of the air you're forced to breathe. You pull your scarf tighter, the rough wool scratching at your chin, offering little defense against the insidious chill that seeps into your bones. It's a cold that feels almost sentient, probing for weaknesses, finding its way beneath your overcoat, up your sleeves, settling in your joints. Each breath you draw feels heavy, thick with the damp, the taste of it unmistakable. Your boots thump softly on the cobblestones, a muffled cadence lost almost immediately in the swirling embrace of the fog. You can barely make out the outline of your gloved hand, held just inches from your face. Every few paces, a faint, sickly glow emerges from the gloom, a street lamp, its flame a desperate, struggling ember. It casts long, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink, twisting familiar shapes into monstrous caricatures. The brickwork of the buildings around you looms, a dark, indistinct mass that seems to press in, threatening to swallow you whole. The city isn't silent, not really. It's a symphony of suppression. The distant clatter of a hansom cab, the faint, choked cry of a vendor, the almost imperceptible scuttling of unseen creatures, all are muted, absorbed by the thick, choking air. You strain your ears, trying to discern patterns, meaning anything that might cut through the disorienting blanket. A figure materializes briefly from the swirling grey ahead, a tall, gaunt man, his silhouette distorted, his top hat a dark, imposing dome. He brushes past you, a faint, stale smell of cheap tobacco and something sour like stale beer momentarily overwhelming the omnipresent smoke. His eyes, though you catch them for only a fraction of a second, are hollow, shadowed, avoiding your gaze, full of an unspoken weariness that mirrors your own growing unease. You turn your head, watching as he dissolves back into the gloom, a phantom of the gaslight. The feeling persists, that distinct taste, that bitter, smoky shadow on your tongue, a constant companion in this suffocating labyrinth. It's more than just the air, it feels like the very essence of the city has seeped into you, a subtle warning, a premonition of the hidden things that lurk within this impenetrable London fog. You can't shake it, this pervasive sense that something is profoundly, terribly wrong. The city breathes and you taste its grim secret. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much of a place can truly get inside you? How much of its suffering, its hidden truths, can you absorb just by existing within it? This place, this fog, it has a taste all its own, and tonight you are drinking it in. You reach out, blindly seeking purchase, and your fingertips brush against a cold, slick surface. It feels like ancient stone, perpetually damp, covered in a thin, greasy film that sends a shiver through you. You recoil slightly, wiping your fingers on your coat, the unexpected texture a stark jolt in the profound sensory deprivation that surrounds you. The fog has not lifted. If anything, it has tightened its grip, a living, breathing entity that twists the familiar into the monstrous. You feel utterly cut off, an island in a vast, grey ocean. Each turn you take feels like a gamble. Was that the street you intended? Or merely another indistinguishable alley leading deeper into this opaque maze? You try to remember landmarks, but they refuse to materialize, swallowed whole by the swirling vapor. Muffled sounds become your only unreliable compass. A carriage bell clangs, seemingly from directly beside you, yet when you spin, there's nothing but the milky expanse. Then, a moment later, the same sound echoes from behind, fainter now, as if the city itself is playing a cruel trick. You press on, your pace slowing, each step a deliberate test of the uneven ground before you. Your eyes ache from straining against the blankness, trying to force form where there is only formlessness. A fleeting shadow passes, a momentary disturbance in the cotton-wool silence, moving with an unnatural speed. Perhaps a stray dog, perhaps something else. You blink, trying to refocus, but it's gone, leaving only the oppressive weight of the fog. The knowledge of your location is slipping, melting away like sugar in hot tea. You were certain you knew this district, but now every street looks identical, every door a duplicate of the last. It's as if the very architecture has conspired to create a blind labyrinth, each path indistinguishable, leading nowhere but deeper into its heart. The chill intensifies, a damp hand creeping up your spine. You're not just lost in the fog, you're lost asterisk to asterisk it. You watch your own breath condense before you, a ghostly plume, another transient detail in this endless grey world. This complete loss of bearing, this surrender to the unseen, it's a terrifying freedom, isn't it? To be so utterly adrift, relying on nothing but the touch of a cold wall or the faint echo of a sound, truly makes you question how much of your reality depends on what you can actually see. You crest a subtle rise, or perhaps the ground simply dips away and suddenly the air changes. It's not just the acrid smoke anymore, there's something else, a thick, visceral assault on your nostrils. A stench of decay, of stagnant water and refuse, of things long dead and forgotten. It's the very breath of the Thames, putrid and inescapable, catching in your throat, a metallic edge to its foulness. The fog here feels denser, heavier, clinging with a damp, cold insistence that seeps into your very clothes. You hear it now too, a low, guttural lapping sound, the endless murmur of the unseen river. It's a sound that seems to absorb all others, a relentless churning presence that amplifies the chill. You peer into the murky grey ahead, trying to pierce the veil, but all you discern is an even deeper blackness, the water itself, an opaque swirling void that promises only hidden depths. You move closer, drawn by a morbid curiosity despite the repulsion. Your foot slips on something unseen, a patch of greasy slime that adheres to the worn flagstones near the quay's edge. You catch your balance, a sudden jolt of adrenaline, your heart thumping against your ribs. The cold permeates your boots, a raw, biting dampness that rises from the very ground, carrying with it that sickening aroma. The air is thick with it, tasting like rust and grave soil. You can almost feel the sludge-laden current dragging beneath the surface, a hungry, silent force. A faint, spectral outline of a barge drifts past, a dark, hulking shadow against the slightly lighter grey of the fog-cloaked river, its passage accompanied by the creak of unseen ropes. It vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving only the lapping water and the pungent, cloying air. This isn't just a river, it's the city's festering wound, a dark, churning artery pumping filth and misery into the very heart of London. It makes you realise, doesn't it, how even the most vital parts of life can become tainted, a dumping ground for what we wish to forget, yet it always resurfaces, a testament to what lies beneath the calm surface. The smell, it hits you again, but this time it's not merely the foul breath of the river, it's an all-consuming physical entity that chokes the air, leaving you gasping. This isn't just decay. It's the concentrated essence of a burgeoning city's entire waste, a visceral punch to your senses. It's the great stink made manifest, a suffocating blanket woven from sewage, industrial discharge, and the accumulated filth of millions. You bring a hand to your mouth, but it's a futile gesture, offering no protection against the onslaught. Every breath you attempt feels like drawing liquid corruption into your lungs, thick and cloying. Your eyes water not just from the damp fog, but from the sheer chemical sting in the air. You cough, a dry, ragged sound trying to clear the sensation from your throat, but it clings like a physical object. The greasy fog seems to hold the stench captive, amplifying its potency, pressing it down upon you from every angle. You can almost feel it settling on your hair, your clothes, an inescapable, humiliating taint. Ahead, through the swirling miasma, you discern the indistinct shapes of other figures. They move with an unnatural haste, hunched, some with handkerchiefs pressed firmly to their faces, their shoulders visibly stiff with revulsion. One woman, her face a pale blur, clutches her child's hand tightly, pulling the small form along, an almost desperate grimace etched onto her features. She glances your way, her eyes wide with a shared, silent misery before she vanishes into the grey, her hurried footsteps fading into the pervading silence that the stench somehow creates. It's a collective burden, this foul air, a democratic torment. You press on, but every instinct screams at you to turn back, to flee this putrid embrace. You glimpse the faint, distant flicker of gaslight reflecting off something in the gutter, a discarded fish head perhaps, or a pile of unidentifiable refuse, its form blurred and softened by the fog, yet its contribution to the overall miasma utterly undeniable. It's all part of it, everything contributing to this monumental self-inflicted wound. This is the grim reality of London's progress, isn't it? The grand edifices, the bustling markets, the marvels of industry, all built upon and contributing to this festering heart. The sheer volume of human existence, the relentless drive forward, has exacted an unbearable price. You taste it, you feel it, this terrible consequence of growth, and it makes you question. What truly is the cost of such ambition when it means living and breathing in the very refuse of your own creation? It feels like the city itself is slowly drowning in its own effluent, a silent testament to unchecked advancement. The relentless scrape, 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 that's the first thing that truly penetrates the dull ache in your fingertips. It's the sound of coarse, tar-soaked rope fibers being torn apart, shredded piece by piece. You feel it more than hear it, a grating vibration that travels up your arm, settling deep in your shoulder. Each strand is a tiny battle, a stubborn resistance against your raw, reddened hands. You dig your fingernails into the thick, twisted mass, pulling, twisting, wrenching, separating the tightly wound strands of old ship's rigging into loose, fibrous oakum. Your eyes, weary and gritty from the dim light and the constant effort, focus on the small, dark mountain of rope scraps piled before you. It seems endless. Your fingers are clumsy, stiff with the cold and the cumulative strain. You pause for a moment, flexing them, watching the blood rush back into the blanched skin around your knuckles. A splinter, sharp and invisible, pricks your thumb. You ignore it. There's no time for such trivialities. The work demands continuous, unthinking motion. The air in this cramped, windowless room is heavy, a thick mixture of damp earth, unwashed bodies, and the pungent, unmistakable smell of old tar. It coats your throat, dry and irritating, adding another layer to the general discomfort. You can hear the rhythmic cough of someone nearby, a rasping, wet sound, quickly swallowed by the monotonous symphony of scraping and rustling. You glance up, squinting through the gloom. Other figures are hunched over their own piles, their faces obscured by shadows and their own private miseries, their movements as repetitive and devoid of joy as your own. They are silent save for the sounds of their labor, each one a prisoner to the endless task. A faint clatter echoes from somewhere outside this immediate cell, perhaps a cart rumbling past on the street above, a brief, fleeting connection to a world that feels impossibly far away. But here, in this enclosed space, only the oakum exists. The rough fibers of the rope feel like a constant abrasion against your skin, slowly wearing away any softness, leaving behind calluses and a dull, throbbing pain that settles deep within your bones. You try to find a rhythm, a cadence that might ease the monotony, but it's a losing battle. Each piece of rope is different, some yielding easily, others fighting back with surprising ferocity. You drop a handful of separated fibers into a sagging burlap sack at your feet. The sound is a soft, satisfying rustle, a tiny victory in a day filled with small, unyielding defeats. Yet as the bag slowly fills, the pile before you seems scarcely diminished. The sheer, overwhelming tedium is a weight as heavy as the fog outside, pressing down, crushing any fleeting thought of escape or relief. You wonder, don't you, about the endless tasks that define so many lives, the quiet, painful persistence required to simply exist, day in and day out, bound to a repetitive, unforgiving cycle. How much of one's spirit can be shredded, much like this old rope, before there's nothing left but the fibers? The first thing that truly assails you each morning isn't the sun, a luxury rarely glimpsed through these grimy windows, but the cruel, biting dampness of the stone floor against your bare feet. It's a cold that seems to rise from the very foundations of the building, seeping into your bones, a constant, gnawing presence that no amount of thin, grey blanket can truly ward off. You shiver, a convulsive tremor that runs through your weary frame, and push yourself up from the hard, straw-filled mattress. The room is a spectral landscape of identical pallets, each occupied by a slumped, anonymous form, breathing shallowly in the perpetual gloom. Then comes the bell, not a gentle chime, but a harsh, jangling clang that rips through the heavy air, demanding immediate, unquestioning obedience. It's a sound designed to jolt, to eradicate any lingering tendrils of sleep or dreams. You move, one of many, towards the communal washroom, the frigid water on your face doing little to awaken you, merely stinging your skin and making your teeth ache. There's a faint, institutional smell here, a sterile, sour scent of cheap soap and disinfectant struggling to mask the underlying odor of stale bodies and despair. You find yourself standing in line, a silent automaton, awaiting your portion of thin gruel. It's a pale, watery sludge, almost tasteless, yet you devour it quickly, the desperate hunger in your stomach overriding any protest from your palate. There are no conversations, no murmured exchanges of pleasantries. Only the quiet clatter of metal spoons against tin bowls and the occasional sharp cough. You feel the weight of unseen eyes, the silent, watchful presence of the overseers, their forms barely discernible in the persistent dimness that seems to permeate every corner of this place. They are spectres of authority, their very stillness a form of control, their gaze stripping away any lingering sense of personal dignity. The day unfolds, an endless, monotonous cycle of tasks, each designed to break the spirit as much as occupy the body. Perhaps you are set to picking more oakum, the incessant scrape on your raw fingertips a familiar torment. Or maybe it's the stone-breaking yard, the dull thud of your hammer against hard rock vibrating up your arms, the dust catching in your throat, mixing with the ever-present cold. Each movement is observed, each moment accounted for. There is no escape from the rhythm of the institution, no corner where you can truly be alone with your thoughts without the chilling awareness of surveillance. You pass other inmates in the narrow corridors, their faces gaunt, eyes often vacant or fixed on some distant, invisible point. They are ghosts moving through the grey architecture, their silence a profound, collective lament. A woman, her hair streaked with grey, passes you, her gaze brushing yours for a fleeting instant. There's no recognition, no spark of connection, just a shared, deep-seated weariness that speaks volumes more than any uttered word. It's a look that holds the raw, unspoken truth of their existence, a perpetual state of quiet suffering, a life lived without hope. The uniform you wear, coarse and drab, feels less like clothing and more like a second skin, a constant reminder of your nameless, faceless status. It's designed to erase individuality, to brand you as merely another unit within this vast, unforgiving machine. As the day draws to its close, the cold biting deeper, the ache in your muscles a dull throb, you retreat back to your hard palate. The silence returns, heavier now, filled with the muffled sounds of the institution settling for the night. You close your eyes, but sleep offers little respite, merely a brief, dark void before the bell inevitably calls you once more. You realize, don't you, that the deepest scream isn't always the loudest. The sharp, medicinal tang of gin hits you first. Even before you push through the swinging doors, it's an acrid, juniper-heavy scent cutting through the fog damp, promising oblivion. Then the heat, a sudden, oppressive warmth after the outside chill, thick with unwashed bodies, stale tobacco and cheap spirits. You're in a gin palace, a garish island in the grimy London night. Inside, the light is a brutal assault. Gas lamps, polished brass, mirrored walls, they reflect 1,000 distorted, shimmering images. It's blinding, dizzying, designed to overwhelm, to dazzle away the dinginess. The noise is a cacophony. Raw laughter, slurred shouts, the clatter of glasses, boots on sawdust, a desperate reverie. You push to the counter, jostled by swaying, red-faced figures. The grim-faced bartender slides a small glass. The liquid glows, you lift it. The first gulp is a shock, a fiery, blistering burn scrapes down your throat, pure, unadulterated heat. It's raw, potent, an immediate anesthetic to the cold and the day's anxieties. Your eyes water, a cough catches, then instantly a strange, floaty warmth spreads. The world is softer, hazier. You watch a woman nearby, her face weary, throw back her own measure. Her eyes close, a sigh escapes, brief peace. Shattered as she bangs her glass, demanding another. Across the room, a man argues, his gestures wild, voice slurring. Here, burdens are shed, drowned in cheap spirits. The illusion is intoxicating, this momentary escape. But with another sip, the artificial glow fades. Harsh realities threaten to seep back in through the dizzying haze. This brutal, dazzling burn, it's a powerful balm, isn't it? Yet you know this oblivion comes at a price. What true solace can be found in a bottle when the world waits unchanged, ready to reclaim you? The contrast when you finally step through the swinging doors is almost physically jarring. One moment, you're enveloped in the choking, grey embrace of the London fog, a world of damp, silence and indistinct horrors. The next, you're plunged into a dazzling, roaring cavern of artificial light and deafening sound. It's like stepping into a different dimension entirely. Your eyes sting, momentarily overwhelmed by the sheer, unadulterated brilliance. Gas lamps, hundreds of them, blaze with fierce, yellow-white flames, their light bouncing off polished brass fixtures and ornate, beveled mirrors that line every wall. The mirrors reflect countless distorted images of the crowd, of the lamps, of yourself, a dizzying kaleidoscope that feels designed to disorient, to make you forget the world outside. The warmth hits you too, a thick, oppressive heat that quickly begins to draw sweat on your brow, a stark contrast to the biting cold you've just left. It's a heat generated by the lamps, yes, but also by the press of bodies, by the sheer, contained energy of desperation. The noise is a physical force. A ceaseless clamor of voices, sharp laughter that feels more like a cry, the clatter of heavy glasses against the marble-topped bar, the stomp and scrape of boots on a floor thick with sawdust. It's a cacophony that makes conversation impossible, forcing you to shout to be heard, to be part of the collective roar. The air, though warm, is thick and stale, a pungent cocktail of cheap spirits, pipe tobacco, and unwashed woolen coats, all clinging to the polished surfaces and lingering in the heavy air. You push your way deeper into the crowd, each step a minor battle against the swirling, swaying mass of humanity. Faces pass in a blur, red-cheeked, sweat-sheened, some flushed with drink, others etched with a weary resignation that even the dazzling lights cannot fully obscure. A man, his tie askew, throws back his head and bellows with mirth, a sound both infectious and tinged with something brittle, fragile. Another, slumped against a pillar, stares vacantly into his glass, the liquid within reflecting the myriad lights like a tiny, liquid galaxy. Here, the fog and grime are momentarily forgotten, bleached away by the relentless gleam. The bartender, a burly figure with perpetually damp sleeves, moves with practiced efficiency, slamming down glasses, pulling at taps. You catch his eye and he slides a drink across the counter. The liquid shimmers under the fierce light, a beacon in this palace of synthetic joy. You lift it, feeling the warmth of the glass, the promise of oblivion. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To find such an extravagant, almost grotesque display of light and warmth thriving in the very heart of such a dark, cold city. It makes you wonder how much brighter the illusion must be to truly overshadow the impenetrable gloom outside, and what kind of darkness it truly takes to make such a dazzling, fleeting escape so utterly necessary. The roar hits you not just in your ears but deep in your chest, a physical thump that vibrates through the very soles of your worn boots. You step across the threshold, and suddenly you're enveloped in a thunderous, relentless symphony of industry. It's the cacophony of 100 looms, all clattering, banging, and whirring in furious, synchronized rhythm. Each shuttle darts back and forth with a sharp, mechanical thwack, followed by the heavy, grinding clang of the frame over and over, an unending, mechanical pulse that threatens to obliterate all other thought. The air here is thick, almost opaque, with a fine, suffocating dust, cotton lint, perpetually swirling like ghostly snow. It catches in your throat, dry and ticklish, making your nose itch and your eyes water. You can taste it too, a dry, fibrous residue that sticks to your tongue. The pervasive smell is a mix of hot machine oil, damp fabric, and the faint, sweet scent of raw cotton, all intensified by the oppressive heat that radiates from the endlessly working machinery. Your clothes feel instantly heavier, clinging to your skin, trapping the warmth and the swirling dust. You move between rows of towering, complex machines, their gears and belts a blur of ceaseless motion. Each colossal loom seems to possess a frantic, living energy, weaving unseen threads into endless bolts of fabric. The ground beneath you trembles constantly, a low, guttural vibration that travels up your legs, through your spine, and into the very core of your skull. You have to shout even to yourself to make your thoughts heard above the din, yet your voice is immediately swallowed, insignificant. Then you see them, small figures dwarfed by the immense machinery, moving with a startling, practiced agility. A child no older than 7 or 8 stands hunched over a section of the loom, his hands a blur as he expertly ties a snapped thread. His movements are precise, automatic, his face smudged with grease and grime, utterly devoid of childish curiosity or playfulness. He glances up as you pass, his eyes dark and sunken, meeting yours for a fleeting moment. There's no spark there, no laughter, no chatter, only a deep, unsettling stillness. Amidst the deafening clamor of the factory, he moves in a peculiar silence, a quiet intensity that feels profoundly out of place. He is not alone. You see others, similarly small, their faces pale and serious, diligently monitoring spindles, sweeping lint from beneath the monstrous iron beasts. Their nimble fingers are a necessary evil, reaching into dangerous nooks and crannies where adult hands cannot fit, their youth exploited by the relentless demands of the machines. The machine roars on, indifferent, uncaring. This profound, almost spiritual quietude of the children set against the furious mechanical din, it forces a question, doesn't it? How much of childhood can be stolen before there's nothing left but the quiet, unyielding labor, and what kind of noise does it take to drown out the silent scream of a lost youth? You lean closer, drawn by a morbid fascination, the immense metal frame of the loom humming fiercely beside you. The vibration courses through your chest, a deep mechanical pulse that feels almost alive, thrumming against your very bones. Your gaze drops, fixed on the small, nimble hands of a child, no older than 8, working precariously close to the churning, grease-stained gears. The air, thick with cotton dust, tastes of metallic oil and damp thread. You can feel the minute particles settling on your tongue, gritty and dry. The deafening clatter of the machinery is a constant assault, yet the child moves with a terrifying, almost balletic precision, his tiny fingers darting in and out, rethreading a broken strand with uncanny speed. You hold your breath, instinctively tensing with each near miss as a shuttle, the size of a man's forearm, whips past, just inches from his small, pale knuckles. The sheer scale of the danger, pitted against such fragile, vulnerable limbs, makes your stomach clench. His face, smudged with dirt and a streak of oil, is expressionless, focused with an intensity that seems far too old for his years. His eyes, dark and heavy-lidded, flick upwards for a fraction of a second, meeting yours. There's no fear, no resentment, just a quiet, profound understanding in their depths, a shared acknowledgement of the relentless, unforgiving rhythm of this iron beast. Then his gaze drops back to his task, his slender back hunched, utterly absorbed in the meticulous, dangerous work. You watch his small hands, scraped and reddened, perform the same intricate movement again and again, a living cog in the relentless machine. Each thread is a tiny battle, each repaired break a small victory against the overwhelming force of the factory. The raw, guttural roar of the looms seems to mock the fragility of his existence, his very life hanging by a thread, quite literally, within this mechanical behemoth. The persistent, pervasive smell of hot metal and industrial lubricant fills your nostrils, a constant reminder of the alien, unforgiving environment. A nearby foreman, a burly man with a thick moustache, glances over, his eyes scanning the workers with a swift, cold assessment before moving on. He sees the child, acknowledges his efficiency, and nothing more. It's a stark, brutal efficiency, isn't it? The way this world devours innocence, turning small hands into extensions of vast, uncaring machines. You can't help but wonder as you watch him how long those small, precious hands can continue to dance so close to the precipice before one of these iron giants finally claims its due. What price indeed for such industriousness? You're navigating a particularly grim stretch of cobblestones, where the ever-present damp of the London fog feels thicker, clinging to every brick and railing. The air, as always, is a tapestry of soot, stagnant water, and the faint, unsettling whiff of decay. But then a new scent cuts through it all, utterly unexpected. It's sweet, a thick, cloying sweetness, almost sickly, like burnt sugar mixed with the ghost of bruised petals, yet infused with the sharp, unmistakable tang of smoke. It doesn't just arrive, it settles upon you, coats your tongue, and makes your nostrils prickle. This isn't the acrid burn of coal smoke you've grown accustomed to. No, this is something else entirely. It's a deceptive fragrance, almost inviting, masking the usual grime, drawing you in even as an instinctive unease begins to coil in your gut. You lift a gloved hand, brushing it absently beneath your nose, trying to discern the exact notes of this peculiar blend. Is it opium or some strange foreign incense? Whatever it is, it feels utterly out of place here in this squalid corner of the city. Ahead, through the swirling grey, you see it, a column of smoke, unnaturally black against the pallid sky, rising from an unseen source. But instead of dissipating, it hangs heavy, like a dark, noxious cloud, its tendrils snaking down into the narrow alley it seems to emanate from. The blackness of it, combined with the cloying sweetness, creates a profound visual and olfactory dissonance. It's a shadow made fragrant, a paradox. You find yourself drawn, almost compelled towards the alley mouth, the sweetness growing stronger with every step, becoming almost dizzying. It promises something illicit, something hidden. The usual muffled sounds of the street seem to soften further as you approach, absorbed by this strange, perfumed gloom. You peer into the shadowed opening, the dense smoke making it impossible to see beyond the first few feet. It's like looking into a dark, sweet-smelling tunnel. A fleeting movement in the depths of the blackness catches your eye, a brief flicker, quickly gone. A figure, perhaps, or merely the shifting currents of the dense vapor. You strain your ears, trying to pierce the quiet created by the insistent, sweet aroma, but there is only the faint, distant thrum of the city beyond this peculiar pocket of stillness. The warmth of the smoke, strangely, almost feels comforting on your skin, an unusual counterpoint to the biting cold of the fog. This is a different kind of concealment, isn't it? Not just the familiar visual blanketing of the fog, but a sensory deception, a sweet-scented shroud over something dark and unknown. It makes you wonder what horrors could be hidden, what secrets are being burned away, when the smoke itself tries to lull you with such a treacherous, beguiling sweetness. What do we truly seek to hide when we choose to make its concealment so alluring? This peculiar aroma, it clings to you now, a lingering question. The sweet, cloying scent you followed leads you down a short, damp stairwell. The air grows heavier, warmer, syrupy with the concentrated perfume of burning herbs and something subtly bitter. You push aside a heavy, grimy velvet curtain, stepping into an entirely different world, one immediately divorced from the fog-choked streets above. The light here is a deep, murky amber, filtered through elaborate stained glass panels and the dense, smoky haze that hangs motionless. It does little to pierce the prevailing gloom, creating a space that feels less like a room and more like a hushed, shadowed cavern. Faded velvets and silks, once rich, now stained and flattened, drape the low divans and cushions, absorbing all sound and creating a profound, heavy silence. The oppressive warmth is immediate, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside, but it's a humid, stale heat. Your eyes slowly adjust, discerning forms stretched out on the low furniture, propped against plump, sagging cushions. The air is thick, almost tangible, with the sickly sweet smoke of burning opium clinging to your coat, seeping into your hair. You can feel its delicate stickiness on your skin, tasting it on the back of your tongue, a strange, bittersweet flavor that lingers, coating your mouth. A low, rhythmic gurgle and the faint hiss of a flame draw your gaze. A figure, barely visible in the haze, lies motionless, a long, slender opium pipe clutched in emaciated fingers. A tiny flame, a pinprick of orange in the enveloping dimness, dances over a small, dark pellet in the pipe's bowl. A wisp of black smoke rises, curls lazily, and is slowly, deeply inhaled, followed by a profound sigh that seems to melt into the heavy quiet. The body shudders almost imperceptibly, then sinks deeper into the velvet cushions, utterly lost to the world. Other figures are scattered, some utterly still, their eyes unfocused and vacant, others stirring faintly, their movements slow, languid, dreamlike. A woman, her face pale and drawn, lets out a soft, almost imperceptible murmur, her hand reaching out blindly for an empty pipe beside her. There are no shouts here, no frantic laughter like in the Jinn Palace. Only this deep, pervasive quiet, punctuated by the occasional scrape of a pipe stem, the soft crackle of a tiny flame or an escaping breath. You feel the strange pull of it, the potent promise of oblivion, a brief, beautiful escape from the biting fog and grim realities outside. This intoxicating quiet, this almost sacred stillness amongst the wreck of human lives, makes you pause, doesn't it? To witness such a deliberate, chosen retreat from the harshness of the world, a fragile, fleeting paradise built on smoke and dreams. How desperate must life truly be for such a sweet, dangerous escape to become the only refuge? This heavy, perfumed silence feels like the melancholic heart of this hidden London, where the soul momentarily drifts free. The heavy oak door swings inward with an almost imperceptible groan, and you step across the threshold. The first sensation is the air itself, cool and still, carrying a faint, musty scent of ancient dust, polished beeswax, and perhaps the ghost of long-burnt coal fires. But it's the sound, or rather the sudden, cavernous lack of it, that truly envelops you. Your boot lands softly on the pristine marble floor, and the faint scuff echoes not once but several times, bouncing off unseen heights, each reverberation shrinking, until swallowed by the vast, oppressive silence. You find yourself in a grand foyer, a space so enormous it feels almost indecently empty. Your head tilts back, neck craning to take in the soaring ceiling, lost somewhere in the dimness above, adorned with faded frescoes whose details are obscured by shadow and time. A sweeping, curving staircase, its banister a dark gleam of polished wood, rises majestically into the gloom, a silent, imposing sentry. The very air feels heavy with a forgotten grandeur, a sense of former elegance now cloaked in a profound, unsettling quiet. Your breath, usually lost in the city's din, seems loud here, a harsh intake of air in the stillness. You take another step and again the echo. It's a strange, lonely companion, this sound of your own solitary presence in a place clearly designed for bustling life and joyous commotion. The vastness of the space feels almost overwhelming, shrinking you, making you feel like an intruder, a tiny, insignificant detail in a forgotten painting. A single tall gas lamp, its flame barely a flickering ember, casts long, dancing shadows across the polished floor. You notice the dust, a fine, almost invisible layer disturbed only by your footsteps. It suggests an absence, a cessation of activity that feels almost sudden, as if life here simply ceased, leaving only echoes. Your gaze sweeps over the silent space, a pedestal where a statue might once have stood, a dark, heavy sideboard against a far wall, its surface bare. Each object feels like a relic, a testament to a life that once filled this void with laughter and conversation. You turn your head, half expecting to see a butler emerge from the shadowed recesses, or hear the rustle of a silk gown descending the grand stairs. But there is nothing, only the cold, the dust, and the lingering echoes of your own trespass. The profound silence, broken only by the shrinking reverberations of your steps, becomes a question, a mystery in itself. This magnificent, empty space, it makes you realize, doesn't it, how powerfully a place can hold the memory of life, even when all life has departed. And how sometimes the deepest impressions are left not by what is present, but by what is chillingly, hauntingly absent. You step from the grand foyer, the echo of your last footfall slowly fading into the vast emptiness, and push open a heavy panelled door. The air here is immediately different. Warmer, richly scented with aged leather, polished wood, and the faint, sweet memory of dried rose petals. Your boots sink slightly into a thick plush carpet, silencing your footsteps entirely, as if the very fabric of the room demands a hushed reverence. The light, too, is subdued, filtered through heavy velvet curtains that block out the biting London fog, casting a soft, amber glow that softens every corner, every sharp edge. You find yourself in a drawing room impeccably arranged. Every piece of furniture, every ornament, seems to be placed with an almost militant precision. There's a pristine quality to the room, a sense of everything being perfectly ordered, almost untouched, as if life here is a carefully choreographed performance. You run a gloved finger lightly over the cold, smooth surface of a marble mantelpiece, noticing the intricate carvings, the gleaming brass of the fire irons. It's a space designed to impress, to speak of impeccable taste and unshakable decorum. A distant, faint chiming of a grandfather clock from somewhere deeper in the house breaks the profound quiet, a gentle reminder of the slow, stately passage of time within these walls. You can almost feel the weight of expectation in the air, the silent demands of propriety. Imagine being here during an evening gathering, the low murmur of polite conversation, the clink of teacups, the rustle of expensive gowns. Every gesture would be measured, every smile carefully placed, a thin veneer over unreadable emotions. You move towards a tall, narrow bureau, its dark wood gleaming under the soft light. You notice a small, exquisitely carved silver locket resting innocently on its surface. Your fingers hover over it, but you do not touch. It feels like an intimate object, misplaced perhaps, or simply overlooked in the grand display. The very presence of it in such a formal, rigid setting hints at a hidden corner, a small, personal world concealed beneath the layers of expectation. The polished surfaces reflect distorted glimpses of the room, of your own somber reflection, a silent witness. This place, with its hushed grandeur and meticulously arranged beauty, feels like a physical manifestation of constraint, doesn't it? A beautiful, suffocating corset of etiquette, holding everything tightly in place, allowing no raw edges, no spontaneous display. It makes you realize how powerfully appearance can dictate reality, and how often the most profound secrets are hidden not in dark corners, but in plain sight, behind the gleaming facade of perfect order. What truths, you wonder, are truly held captive within these silent, elegant walls? The cold hits you first, not the chill of the fog outside, but a bone-deep, penetrating cold that radiates from the ancient, massive stone walls of Newgate. It's a damp, pervasive chill that seems to cling to your very breath, making the air feel heavy, almost metallic on your tongue. Each intake of air is a conscious effort, dry and rasping in your throat. You rub your arms, but the thin, coarse fabric of your prison uniform offers little defense against the relentless bite that seeps into your joints. Your footsteps echo hollowly down the narrow, dimly lit corridor. The flagstones beneath your worn boots are uneven, slick with an unseen dampness, their surface perpetually cold. The faint, sickly yellow glow from a distant gas lamp struggles against the pervasive gloom, casting long, distorted shadows that twist and writhe like tormented spirits along the grimy walls. You can barely make out the rough, lichen-stained stone, its surface unyielding beneath your tentative touch. The very architecture feels imbued with centuries of misery, a silent, grim testament to countless lives extinguished within its cold embrace. A distant clang of heavy iron, followed by the scrape of bolts, rips through the oppressive silence, sending a sharp jolt through you. It's the sound of another cell door somewhere in the labyrinth closing or perhaps opening, a stark reminder of the endless grinding cycle of confinement. You press your ear against the rough timber of your own cell door, but hear nothing more than the faint, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water from some unseen leak deep within the foundations. The air itself carries a faint, sour tang, unwashed bodies, stale straw, and something indefinable, something like raw fear itself, thick and suffocating. Through a small, barred aperture set high in the wall, you catch a fleeting glimpse of the outside world, merely a smear of impenetrable grey fog. It offers no comfort, only a stark contrast to the slightly darker gloom of your cell. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold, unyielding iron bars. They feel solid, permanent, a physical embodiment of the unbreachable barrier between you and the world beyond these formidable walls. A fleeting, gaunt face appears at the small grille of the cell opposite, eyes sunken and desperate, before quickly retreating into the deeper shadows. No words are exchanged, only a shared, silent understanding of the pitiless reality that binds you both. The sheer, relentless weight of the stone presses in from all sides, a constant, physical reminder of your predicament, of your absolute isolation. It's a place designed to strip away everything, even hope itself, leaving only a hollow ache. You sink back onto your hard cot, the rough blanket doing little to ease the penetrating chill. This enduring cold, this unyielding stone, it makes you ponder, doesn't it, how much the human spirit can truly withstand when every physical comfort, every fleeting warmth, every scrap of freedom is systematically denied. How much of yourself can endure unbroken when encased in such a cold, hard world where only the stone remembers. The air outside is a cruel, biting whip, sharper than any chill you felt within the cold embrace of Newgate's stone. But it's not just the cold that makes you shiver, it's the sound. A low, guttural murmur, a vast, expectant hum that rises and falls like a restless tide, growing louder with every hesitant step you take. This is the sound of a crowd, a morbid congregation, drawn by the grim spectacle that awaits. You're being led, your bare feet on the icy cobblestones, a sharp, raw shock, the coarse uniform offering scant protection against the biting wind that whips at your exposed skin. Through the pervasive London fog, a hulking silhouette begins to materialize. It's tall, stark, a dark, angular shape against the grey backdrop, an undeniable presence that seems to drain all warmth from the air. The gallows. Its rough-hewn timbers stand stark, unadorned, a brutal monument to finality. A tremor runs through the gathered throng, a collective sigh of anticipation. You can taste the raw, metallic tang of fear in the back of your throat, mingling with the ever-present soot. Your eyes, wide and stinging from the cold, fix on the thick, coiled rope, hanging ominously, swaying almost imperceptibly in the damp air. It's not just wood and hemp, it's the very embodiment of the end, the ultimate silence. You hear the distinct creak of a carriage wheel on the cobbles, then the heavy clank of a gate being secured. The murmur of the crowd swells, then suddenly hushes, an unnatural quiet descending, heavy with morbid expectation. Every breath you draw feels shallow, catching in your chest, the beating of your own heart a deafening drum in your ears. You glance towards the faces in the crowd, a sea of indistinct blurs through the mist, their eyes fixed, hungry for the impending moment. There's a strange mixture of awe and grim satisfaction in their posture, a collective witness to a life extinguished. The world narrows, compressing into this single stark image, the rough wood, the thick rope, the cold, waiting silence. It makes you realize, doesn't it, how fragile the thread of life truly is, and how quickly the grand theatre of existence can be reduced to one brutal, inescapable moment. This then is the ultimate end of all choices, all struggles, all hidden mysteries, just the cold, the rope, and the final crushing silence. The sound hits you first, a deep, resonant rumble that vibrates up from the cobblestones, through your very boots, right into your chest. It's the ceaseless clatter, the rhythmic thud of 1,000 hooves, a chaotic percussion that utterly overwhelms the usual muffled din of the London fog. This isn't just the occasional passing hansom. This is a living, breathing tide of animal power, a relentless churning force that consumes everything around you. You're caught in the thick of it, pressing through a market thoroughfare that has utterly dissolved into an unholy maelstrom of horses and carts. The air is pungent, thick with the earthy smell of damp straw, the sharp, almost ammoniac tang of horse sweat and fresh manure, and the leathery scent of harnesses, all mingled inextricably with the greasy dampness of the fog. It's a primal, visceral smell that sticks to the back of your throat, far more potent than the city's usual industrial grime. You can taste the grit of it, the faint animalistic musk, a raw, untamed essence that feels startlingly out of place in this modern, ordered city, yet completely at home in its chaotic heart. Giant steaming forms materialize from the grey mist all around you, horses, their breath pluming like white smoke, their huge, muscular flanks brushing dangerously close. You flinch, pulling back sharply as a carriage wheel, caked in mud, spins past, sending a spray of cold, dark muck across your coat. The ground itself trembles constantly, a low, guttural vibration that travels up your legs, leaving your equilibrium in a precarious state. You have to actively fight to keep your footing, jostled by other pedestrians, all of them moving with the same desperate urgency, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and grim determination. The drivers, mere silhouettes perched precariously high on their laden carts, shout hoarse warnings, their voices barely audible above the constant thunder. Harnesses jingle, bells clang furiously, and the grinding of heavy wooden wheels against stone creates a discordant symphony of raw, untamed power. A cart impossibly high with crates looms suddenly from the fog directly ahead, its horses straining, their iron-shod hooves striking sparks from the wet cobbles. You instinctively flatten yourself against a stall, its canvas cover cold and damp against your cheek as the behemoth rumbles past, the sheer force of its passage making the very air vibrate. You see a young boy, no more than 10, dart expertly between the legs of a dray horse, a basket of vegetables clutched tightly to his chest, his face a pale, determined blur. His survival instincts are finely honed, a testament to the constant dangers of this street. His eyes meet yours for a fleeting second, a flash of shared anxiety, before he vanishes into the eddying chaos. It's a constant dance with danger, a precise choreography of near misses and quick dodges, requiring every ounce of your attention, every nerve on edge. Your hearing feels overwhelmed, a dull ache throbbing behind your ears from the ceaseless clamor. The air is thick, not just with fog and smells, but with the raw, untamed energy of these animals. Their collective force a stark reminder of the brute power that still underpins this industrial metropolis. It's a powerful, almost terrifying display, this unbridled strength, a force of nature harnessed and directed, yet always teetering on the brink of chaotic freedom. As you finally manage to push through the densest part of the thoroughfare, the sound of the hooves, though still present, begins to recede slightly, a dull roar in the distance. Your shoulders sag with relief, your chest heaving from the exertion and the sustained tension. The smell of horse and muck, however, lingers, clinging to your clothes, a persistent memory of the wild, untamed heart of the city you've just navigated. The fog, surprisingly, has thinned a little here, enough that outlines are less amorphous, but the air still bites with damp. What truly presses in, though, is the sheer, overwhelming sound. It's no longer the focused thunder of hooves, but a vast, ceaseless orchestration, the city's unrelenting chorus rising and falling around you. You stand for a moment, letting it wash over you, trying to pick apart the individual threads in this monstrous tapestry of noise. You feel it as much as hear it, a constant, low thrumming underfoot, a vibration from unseen engines, distant trains, the sheer industrial pulse of London. Above this hum, 1,000 other sounds intertwine. The thin, reedy cry of a newsboy far off trying to pierce the din with his headlines. The rhythmic clatter of a smithy's hammer, metallic and sharp, echoing from some unseen alley. A sudden piercing shriek from a factory whistle cutting through the air like a knife, marking a shift change, a moment of transition for thousands. You can taste the city's breath on your tongue, a blend of wet soot, stale coal smoke, and the faint, underlying tang of raw humanity, all stirred into the cacophony. Your ears ache with the effort of discerning, of separating one sound from another, but they blend, merge, and then resolve into something new. The muffled rumble of carriages on distant thoroughfares, the sharp snap of a whip, the far-off peal of a church bell, its sound strangely flattened and absorbed by the damp air, offering no clear direction. There's a faint, tinny music from somewhere, a lonely hurdy-gurdy tune struggling to survive the onslaught, quickly swallowed by the general clamour. You hear the indistinct murmur of 1,000 conversations, a perpetual chattering drone that suggests 1,000,000 lives unfolding simultaneously, each one a whisper in the roar. You watch a group of figures, their faces fleeting blurs, rush past, their hurried footsteps adding to the rhythmic beat, their urgent whispers lost to the wind. It's an overwhelming, almost suffocating embrace, this unceasing sound. It follows you, precedes you, surrounds you, a constant companion that allows for no true silence, no moment of respite. Even when a specific noise fades, another instantly rises to take its place, a seamless, endless transition. The city never sleeps, you realize. It simply changes its tune, its breath, its rhythm. This ceaseless auditory bombardment, this living, breathing symphony of urban existence, it truly makes you understand, doesn't it, how much of our reality is built on the constant presence of sound, and how profoundly disorienting it is when that symphony becomes an overwhelming, inescapable force. This is London's true, unrelenting chorus, and you are living within its grand, turbulent score. The smell hits you first, sharp and chemical, like biting into raw lemons soaked in bitter disinfectant. It's carbolic acid, overwhelming, burning your nostrils, cutting through the damp chill of the London fog you've just left behind. You try to draw a deeper breath, but it catches, acrid and metallic, at the back of your throat. This isn't the familiar grime of the city. This is a scent of desperate cleanliness, struggling to mask something far more visceral, something beneath its biting sting. The faint, coppery tang of fresh blood. Your boots squeak softly on the freshly scrubbed, cold flagstones. The room is stark, stripped bare, its pale walls reflecting the dim gaslight with a sickly, almost clinical sheen. The silence here is profound, broken only by the sharp, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water from a tap into a metal basin, each drop echoing with unnerving clarity in the confined space. You can feel the chill of the air, dry and antiseptic, prickling your skin, a stark contrast to the oppressive humidity of the streets outside. In the center, under a harsh, focused lamp that casts long, dancing shadows, lies a figure. They are still, terribly still, draped in a white sheet that seems impossibly stark against the muted colors of the room. You can just discern the rise and fall of their chest, perhaps too quickly, and the occasional, almost imperceptible twitch of a hand peeking out from beneath the linen. A hushed, intense energy permeates the air, thick with unspoken tension, a silent gravity that pulls at you. Around the operating table, two men are poised, their faces grim, furrowed with concentration. One, the surgeon, his coat stained with something dark and rust-colored, holds a gleaming scalpel with a steady hand. The other, an assistant, his brow beaded with sweat, stands ready, his eyes fixed on the patient, his breathing shallow. There are no words, only a silent choreography of grim determination. You hear the faint, sharp clink as a metal instrument is placed onto a tray, a jarring sound in the heavy quiet. You notice a small pool of dark liquid on the floor, catching the gaslight, a vivid splash against the pale stone. Your stomach clenches, a wave of nausea washing over you, but you fight it down, your gaze compelled by the scene. This place, despite its desperate attempts at sterility, still reeks of life, of fear, of something teetering on a precipice. It makes you realize, doesn't it, how thin the veil between existence and oblivion truly is, and how much courage, or perhaps sheer desperation, it takes to willingly submit to such a brutal, necessary theater of human intervention. The clean, sharp smell of carbolic suddenly feels like the scent of both salvation and despair, all at once. The sharp, metallic tang of copper, freshly spilled, now slices through the carbolic-heavy air you breathe. It's a raw, visceral smell, a deep, earthy essence that makes your stomach clench. You can taste it too, a rich iron flavor on your tongue, mingling with the bitter, burning disinfectant. The relentless drip, drip, drip from the tap seems to pick up pace, each drop a tiny, chilling hammer blow in the profound silence that has settled over the operating theater. Your eyes, wide and unblinking, are fixed on the surgeon's hands. They are large, capable hands, but they move with a swift, almost brutal efficiency. The scalpel, still gleaming despite its recent work, catches the gaslight, reflecting a momentary, blinding flash. You see the intricate dance of muscle and bone beneath the pale skin of the patient, now starkly exposed, a vivid, horrifying tableau. A dull thud echoes, a sound of flesh against metal, followed by a soft, squelching noise that sends a shiver down your spine. Your breath hitches, caught somewhere between your throat and your chest. The assistant, his face a mask of grim concentration, dabs expertly with a cloth, his movements precise, almost mechanical. You notice the sweat beading on his brow, catching the light, a testament to the intense, almost unbearable pressure in this sterile yet blood-soaked arena. The air feels heavy, pregnant with unspoken fears, with the delicate balance of life and death that hangs precariously above the operating table. You glimpse the discarded instruments on a nearby tray, glistening wetly under the harsh light, an assortment of hooks, clamps and saws, all cleaned but still bearing the faint, telltale signs of their grim purpose. They are tools of a butcher, yes, but wielded with the desperate, nascent precision of a nascent science. The carbolic, you realize, isn't just a smell, it's a silent prayer, a desperate hope against the unseen enemy of infection. This brutal artistry, this desperate cutting into the very core of a living being, is their only weapon against the inevitable. The surgeon straightens, his movements slower now, the initial flurry of action giving way to a more measured, meticulous pace. His brow is furrowed, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. He exchanges a brief, silent glance with his assistant, a look that speaks volumes of shared burden, of high stakes, of the precarious path they walk between healing and harm. In this stark, cold room, amid the pervasive stench of carbolic and blood, you witness a profound struggle. It's the raw, terrifying birth of modern medicine, an alchemy of pain, precision, and a fervent hope against the unforgiving odds. This raw, brutal scene, this desperate dance with mortality, it makes you question the very nature of progress, doesn't it? To what lengths must we go, how much pain must we inflict, in our relentless quest to understand and conquer the fragile human body? To stand here, witnessing this harsh yet vital spectacle, is to truly comprehend the immense courage, and perhaps the terrible cost, of reaching for a healthier future. The metallic taste in your mouth lingers, a potent reminder of the terrible, beautiful beginnings of medicine. The air itself seems heavy, thick with the weight of 100 unwashed breaths. That's the first thing that truly presses in, not just on your lungs, but on your very spirit. It's a dense, humid cocktail of stale sweat, damp clothes, and the lingering, cloying scent of cheap stew, all mixed with an underlying, faintly sweet aroma of sickness and desperation. You try to draw a deep breath, but it feels constricted, as if the air itself is too exhausted to move. You're in a room so crowded it feels less like a space and more like a human sardine tin. Bodies are packed in, side by side, on every conceivable surface. Straw pallets on the floor, rickety cots lining the walls, even a few slumped figures propped against the grimy brickwork. The dim, yellow light from a single sooty gas lamp hanging precariously from the ceiling does little to dispel the gloom. It merely illuminates the pervasive dampness that clings to the walls, leaving dark, weeping stains like old bruises. You feel the oppressive warmth of other bodies all around you, a constant, uncomfortable contact. Your elbow brushes against a sleeping man whose ragged breathing is a wet, rattling sound, almost a snore. A faint, restless shift nearby, the creak of a protesting bed frame, and you catch the sour, earthy smell of unwashed feet, instantly vivid, almost tasting it on your tongue. There's no privacy here, no personal space, only the relentless press of shared, unavoidable existence. The silence isn't truly silent, it's a low, ceaseless murmur of human life. The soft coughs that ripple through the room like a grim wave, the occasional groan of discomfort, the gentle rustle of shifting bodies, and above all, the myriad rhythms of breathing, shallow, deep, labored, fitful. It's a symphony of survival, a constant reminder that you are not alone, yet profoundly isolated within the sheer anonymity of the crowd. A young woman huddled on a pallet nearby stirs, her face pale and drawn in the dim light. She glances your way, her eyes dull with a weary resignation before closing them again, pulling a thin, patched blanket tighter around her shoulders. No words are exchanged, no gesture of comfort. There's a quiet understanding of shared hardship, a mutual recognition of the bleak reality of this communal purgatory. Your own breathing feels heavier now, catching in your throat, clogged with the oppressive air. The very act of respiration, usually so effortless, becomes a conscious struggle against the weight of 1,000 others. This forced intimacy, this inescapable proximity to so much raw, unvarnished human struggle, it leaves a mark, doesn't it? It makes you realize how profoundly connected we are by the very air we share, even when that connection is merely a burden, a collective gasp for breath in a world that offers so little room to truly live. You can feel the city's pulse here, not in its grand avenues, but in these 1,000 struggling breaths, each one a testament to grim endurance. You step off the main thoroughfare and immediately the world squeezes in, a damp physical embrace. The air here isn't just heavy, it's a solid living thing that clutches at your throat, thick with the concentrated stench of human waste, stale beer, and something indefinable, something rotten that clings to the very stones. It's an overwhelming assault on your nostrils, a truly sickening aroma that makes your eyes water and your stomach churn. You can taste the grit of it, the stale, putrid essence clinging to the back of your tongue. The narrow alleyways are less paths and more fissures, twisting and turning, perpetually shadowed. Overhead, the buildings lean in drunkenly, their sagging timbers and peeling wallpaper almost touching, forming a ragged, grimy canopy that rarely allows a glimpse of the sky. What little light penetrates is weak, sickly, illuminating pools of stagnant water and discarded refuse that slick the uneven cobblestones beneath your worn boots. Each step is cautious, a deliberate navigation around unseen obstacles, the ground perpetually damp and treacherous. The sound here is a constant, low thrum, a chaotic symphony of desperate lives. You hear the sharp, sudden cry of a child from an upper window quickly stifled, the distant, muffled shout of an argument swallowed by the labyrinthine twists, the scrape of an unseen rat, the furtive rustle of cloth as someone brushes past you too closely in the gloom. Every sound feels amplified, yet simultaneously absorbed by the suffocating proximity of so many lives. You feel the constant bump and jostle of bodies, a perpetual, unwelcome contact, as figures emerge from the shadows and quickly disappear again. Your gaze sweeps across the grimy facades, glimpsing distorted faces in fleeting moments. A woman, her hair disheveled, her eyes wide with a strange mix of fear and resignation, peering from a broken pane. A man, his face a map of hunger and weariness, slumped against a doorway, his gaze fixed on nothing. There's a constant sense of unseen eyes, of being watched even as you watch others. Every movement feels stealthy, every glance furtive, as if secrets are the only currency in this desperate district. A sudden gust of wind, a rare breath of air, swirls through a narrow gap, lifting the dust and stench for a brief, unsettling moment before the dense, oppressive quiet settles once more. This is the rookery's embrace, a crushing, suffocating intimacy that binds countless lives in a shared struggle for existence. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much resilience, how much sheer, unyielding will it takes to simply draw breath day in and day out in a place that seems designed to steal it away, leaving nothing but the echoes of a life lived in shadows. The fog has tightened its grip, wrapping the deserted thoroughfare in a shroud so dense you can barely see your own breath. The city's usual clamor is muffled, distant, reduced to a faint, spectral hum. You're making your way down a particularly narrow passage between two tall, silent buildings, the damp chill biting at your exposed skin when you feel it. A sudden ice-cold brush against the back of your gloved hand, a touch as light as a whisper yet utterly distinct, as if an invisible hand has momentarily grazed yours. You flinch, a sharp jolt of adrenaline surging through you, your heart leaping into your throat. It's not the familiar jostle of a passerby, nor the damp caress of a stray branch. This feels deliberate, impossibly cold, leaving a prickling chill that lingers on your skin, even through the leather. You spin around, your head snapping left and right, peering frantically into the milky grey that engulfs everything. But there's nothing. Only the swirling, impenetrable fog, silent and indifferent. Your breath hitches, a sharp, ragged sound in the sudden, profound quiet. You can taste the metallic tang of fear, sharp and acrid, mingling with the pervasive damp and soot that coats your tongue. Your eyes strain, trying to force form from the formless, but the mist holds its secrets tight, showing you nothing but its swirling, unyielding grey. The brickwork of the unseen buildings looms, a vague, dark presence that feels suddenly menacing, as if watching. You rub the back of your hand instinctively, trying to dispel the lingering, unnatural cold, but the sensation persists, a ghostly echo on your skin. Was it merely the trick of a sudden draft? A fleeting figment of an overactive imagination in this disorienting gloom? Yet the specificity of the touch, the distinct, almost intimate contact, argues against such mundane explanations. A profound sense of unease settles over you, a chilling awareness of forces unseen, unheard, yet undeniably present. A faint, high-pitched whine, like the wind through a broken pane, seems to skitter past your ear, a sound that raises the fine hairs on your neck. You glance up again, but the sky is an indistinguishable blanket. There's no source, no visible cause for the cold touch, no logical reason for that ephemeral sound. This uncanny encounter, this unsettling brush with the inexplicable, it forces you to wonder, doesn't it? How truly thin is the veil between our world and what lies beyond it, particularly on a night like this, when the fog seems to erase all logic and reason, leaving only the chilling whispers of the unseen. The ghost of that cold touch remains, a lingering question in the overwhelming silence. The air in the small, curtained room is thick and unnervingly still. It carries a heavy, cloying scent, a strange mix of dried lilies, unlit candles, and a faint, sweet decay that seems to cling to the very velvet of the drapes. You pull your overcoat tighter, but it offers little defense against the profound, inexplicable chill that has settled in the room, a cold that feels almost separate from the damp London night outside. It's a cold that seems to emanate from within the very fabric of the silence, raising goosebumps on your arms. You are seated at a circular table, its polished surface reflecting the faint, wavering glow of a single gas lamp that has been turned down to a mere flicker. Around you, other figures are gathered, their faces etched with a peculiar blend of hope and raw, palpable grief. Their eyes, wide and expectant in the amber gloom, are fixed on the woman at the head of the table, the medium. Her own face is a pale mask of concentration, her eyelids fluttering, her breathing becoming shallow and quick. You can almost taste the shared tension in the room, thick and metallic like holding your breath too long. A low, guttural murmur begins to emanate from the medium's throat, a sound that seems too deep, too resonant for her fragile frame. It's not a voice you recognize, but something ancient, vibrating with an unsettling energy. The table beneath your clasped hands trembles almost imperceptibly, a faint, rhythmic vibration that travels up your forearms, making the small hairs on your neck stand on end. You glance around, catching the wide, unblinking eyes of the woman opposite you, her lips parted slightly, her breath held tight. She offers no reassurance, only a silent acknowledgement of the unseen forces at play. Then a sudden sharp rap echoes from beneath the table, a distinct thud against the wood. Your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic bird trapped in your ribs. Was it merely a trick of the old house, or something else entirely? A small gasp escapes from the gentleman next to you, quickly stifled. The chill intensifies, swirling around your ankles, creeping upwards, and you could swear you feel a fleeting, icy pressure against your knee, as if an invisible hand has brushed past. The sensation is fleeting but utterly vivid, leaving a prickling cold in its wake. The medium shudders, a convulsive tremor that runs through her entire body, and the strange, guttural murmurs cease, replaced by a soft, almost imperceptible sigh. The silence that follows is heavy, expectant, filled with the collective yearning of the grieving. You watch as a tear escapes from the corner of the woman's eye opposite you, tracing a slow, glistening path down her cheek, her shoulders shaking with a silent, profound emotion. It is a moment of pure, unadorned vulnerability, where the veil between worlds feels desperately thin, stretched to breaking point by the weight of unspoken love and sorrow. The air remains charged, thick with the lingering scent of lilies and something else, something undefinable that whispers of unseen presences. The table stills, the peculiar chill slowly begins to recede, leaving only the profound emotional residue of shared hope and sorrow. It truly makes you confront, doesn't it, the extraordinary lengths to which the human heart will go to seek connection with those it has lost, even when that connection is merely a whisper in the dark, a cold touch in a shadowed room. To believe, even for a moment, in the impossible in the face of such overwhelming grief is a testament to the enduring power of love and the terrifying allure of the great unknown. You're picking your way through a particularly squalid alley, the kind that feels like the city's forgotten arteries. The air is thick, a cloying mix of stagnant water, mold, and decaying refuse, clinging to the brickwork like a second skin. Each breath you draw tastes gritty, metallic, a constant reminder of London's hidden grime. Your boots squelch softly on the uneven cobblestones, perpetually damp and slick with something indefinable. Then you stop. Your gaze, accustomed to scanning for peril and the mundane, falls upon something utterly out of place. There, in a patch of fresh, greasy mud, a perfect imprint, not a boot, not a roughshod shoe, but something delicate, almost impossibly so. A lady's slipper perhaps, but one of fine leather, with a distinctive pointed toe and a small, precise heel mark. It's too pristine, too singular, amidst the general churn of poverty and filth. You squat down, the cold, damp stone seeping through your trousers, and lean closer. The mud is black thick, holding the impression with stark clarity. You can almost feel the weight, the slight pressure of the foot that left it. It's a jarring sight, this elegance etched into the mire, a stark contrast between two worlds that should never have met. The smell of the mud, a raw, earthy tang, momentarily overwhelms the usual city stench, drawing your attention fully to this silent testimony. You trace its outline with a gloved finger, careful not to disturb the fragile evidence. The edges are sharp, indicating it was made recently, perhaps just moments before the fog swallowed all other traces. Who would wear such footwear in this desolate place? What errand, what desperate flight, what dark secret would bring a lady, or at least someone of means, into this forgotten corner? The question hangs heavy in the cold, still air. Your eyes scan the surrounding damp, smeared ground, searching for other marks, but the mud quickly gives way to broken flagstones, then to a chaotic scattering of waste. No other clear prints emerge from the gloom. The silence here feels deeper, more profound, broken only by the distant, muffled clang of a hansom cab and the insistent drip of water from an unseen gutter. The footprint stares up at you, a silent challenge, a fragile clue. It's a testament to a fleeting presence, a ghost of an encounter that has left its subtle, undeniable mark on the harsh reality of the alley. It truly makes you wonder, doesn't it, what stories are quietly imprinted upon the world around us, waiting for someone to notice, to decipher their silent, compelling truths. This single, elegant print in the grimy mud speaks volumes, and its tale is only just beginning to unfold. You kneel in the black, greasy mud, the cold seeping through your trousers, a damp, earthy smell rising around you. Your gloved fingers hover just above the delicate footprint you discovered, not daring to disturb its perfect, impossible clarity. The fog, a silent witness, hangs heavy around your head, muting all sound, sharpening your other senses. You don't just see the print, you feel its potential, its quiet demand for scrutiny. Your eyes narrow not just on the overall shape, but on the minute details, the fine grain of the mud, how it was displaced by the pressure, the distinct curve of the arch, the slight indentation of the ball of the foot. You run your gaze along the faint, almost imperceptible scuff marks that lead away from it, imagining the cautious, perhaps hurried steps that followed. Each nuance, each tiny imperfection tells a story if you know how to read it. The mud itself, thick and dark, is a canvas of fleeting truths. You produce a small folding ruler from your coat pocket, its metal cold against your fingers, and carefully measure the length, the width, the depth of the heel. These are not just numbers, they are parameters, constraints, building blocks for a portrait of the unseen. You make mental notes, comparing the delicate size to the typical footwear of London's ladies, noting the unexpected firmness of the impression for what appears to be a light step. The fog swirls, a living, breathing distraction, but your focus remains absolute, a pinpoint of clarity in the pervasive grey. You stand slowly, your joints aching from the damp cold, and cast your gaze wider. What else is here? What other whispers does this alley hold? Your eyes dart across the grimy brickwork, the discarded rubbish, the puddles of stagnant water, searching for any corroborating evidence, any displaced item, any unnatural disturbance. The air, thick with the city's usual effluvium, now seems charged with a different kind of information, a silent narrative waiting to be uncovered. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To find such profound significance in something so easily overlooked, to see a fleeting ghost of a life in a simple depression in the mud. This is the work, the endless, meticulous process of coaxing secrets from the silent, indifferent fabric of the city. You realize that in this age of fog and shadow, the true art lies not in seeing everything, but in truly looking at the smallest, most incongruous detail, for often the greatest mysteries hide in the most unassuming places. The city might conceal, but it always leaves a trace, waiting for the patient, observant eye. The pungent aroma of fresh ink, crisp and almost acidic, is the first thing to greet you as you push open the heavy study door. It promises knowledge, ordered thoughts, quiet industry, filling your nostrils with the scent of purpose. But beneath it, a deeper, far more unsettling smell begins to assert itself, creeping insidious through the air. A metallic, earthy tang like old pennies left in damp soil, the undeniable stench of dried blood. You step further into the room, your boots sinking slightly into a thick, dust-laden rug muffling your steps. The air here is cold, still, thick with the conflicting perfumes. On a large mahogany desk, papers lie scattered, some pristine white, others covered in precise, elegant script, the black ink still gleaming faintly under the weak gaslight that struggles against the heavy velvet curtains. You can almost feel the presence of the writer, the quiet scratch of a pen, the focused industry, but then your gaze drops. There on the edge of the desk, just beside an overturned crystal inkwell, is a dark, irregular stain. It's not the deep, vibrant black of the ink, but a dull, rusty brown, almost black in the shadows. Dried, crusted, it's a stark, brutal contrast, the crisp scent of new words, the grim reality of old violence. You lean closer, an involuntary shiver tracing its way up your spine, your breath catching in your throat. The coppery odor rises, thick and cloying, and you can almost taste its bitter reality on your tongue. Your fingers hover, instinctively avoiding contact. The air hums with a strange, heavy silence, broken only by the distant, muffled clatter of the city outside, a world oblivious to the grim tableau before you. The very stillness of the room feels charged, as if holding its breath, waiting for you to decipher the grim narrative written in these stark, contrasting hues. The precision of the ink, the brutal chaos of the blood, they tell a story of interrupted thought, of violent intrusion into a world of quiet contemplation. This peculiar juxtaposition, the fresh scent of intellect mingling with the stale odor of life forcefully ended, it forces a chilling question, doesn't it? What terrible truth lies at the intersection of creation and destruction, where the ordered world of ideas collides so savagely with the raw, brutal reality of human suffering? The smell clings to you now, a potent, disquieting memory. You lift a heavy, unlit brass candle holder from the ornate mantelpiece, its cold metal surprisingly smooth against your palm. With a precise click of your tinderbox, a small, fragile flame blossoms, casting a flickering, uncertain warmth. The air in the study, already thick with the conflicting scents of fresh ink and dried blood, now carries the delicate, earthy perfume of melting beeswax. The gaslight, dim and distant, recedes further into the shadows, leaving you in an intimate, trembling circle of amber glow. Your eyes, narrowed, sweep across the littered mahogany desk. The bloodstain, dull and dark, seems to pulse in the shifting light. Just beside it, amongst the scattered papers, you spot a folded letter, its parchment yellowed with age, its seals broken. You reach for it, your gloved fingers brushing against the cold, crisp paper. It feels almost alive with unspoken truths. You unfold it carefully, holding it close to the candle flame, the heat a welcome prickle against your skin. The light dances across the spidery, hurried script, making the words jump and sway. It's a frantic hand, a desperate scrawl. You begin to read, your breath catching in your throat as the words coalesce into a chilling narrative. Every syllable seems imbued with a profound sense of urgency, of mounting terror. The air around you, once merely cold, now feels charged with an invisible dread. A shiver, deep and involuntary, traces a path up your spine, despite the candle's fragile warmth. You can almost hear the frantic beating of the writer's heart, see their wide, terrified eyes reflected in the hurried strokes of the quill. The paper, dry and brittle, seems to vibrate with a silent scream. Your own heart begins to hammer against your ribs, a frantic counterpoint to the profound silence that has descended upon the room. The shadows, magnified by the flickering flame, dance and writhe around you, transforming familiar objects into monstrous, fleeting shapes. The heavy curtains seem to billow, the unseen fog outside pressing in, tangible now, a cold, dark presence at the very edges of the light. The scent of the fresh ink, once a promise of order, now mingles with the bitter, coppery tang of the blood and the raw, acrid smell of fear, creating a suffocating cocktail. You finish the last line, the words blurring for a moment, leaving a cold, hollow ache in your stomach. The candlelight trembles, reflecting in your wide, unblinking eyes. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To hold such a mundane object as a piece of paper, yet feel the raw, unfiltered terror of a moment long past. The silent testimony of ink on parchment, illuminated by a trembling flame, reveals a truth far more chilling than any spoken word, an echo of pure, unadulterated fear trapped within the very fibers of the paper. The raw hits you first, a primal guttural wave that washes over everything, shaking the very air around you. It's not just noise, it's a living, breathing entity composed of 1,000 individual shouts, jeers and murmurs, all blending into one monstrous, expectant hum. You're pressed in on all sides, jostled by unseen bodies, feeling the relentless shifting weight of the crowd as it surges and sways like an agitated beast. The air is thick, not merely with the omnipresent London fog, but with the suffocating closeness of so many people. You taste the dry, metallic tang of shared anticipation, mixed with the acrid smell of unwashed wool, stale ale, and the faint, sweet scent of excitement, a truly unsettling combination that clings to your throat. Every breath you draw feels shallow, contested, as if the very air itself is being greedily devoured by the throng. You try to move to gain some purchase, but you're caught, swept along by the collective current. Your boots slip on the wet, filthy cobblestones, and you feel a fleeting moment of panic as you struggle to maintain your footing. All around you, distorted faces appear and disappear in the swirling grey, eyes wide, some fixed with grim satisfaction, others with a hungry, morbid curiosity. You catch a glimpse of a woman, her bonnet askew, her mouth open in a silent scream or cheer, her face a mask of frenzied excitement. The rhythmic thud of a distant drum begins to assert itself, a slow, heavy beat that seems to resonate directly in your chest, amplifying the tension. It's a sound that promises finality, a grim prelude to the spectacle everyone has gathered to witness. Above the ceaseless clamour, the cold, damp air wraps around you, a stark counterpoint to the raw, almost feverish heat radiating from the bodies pressed so tightly around you. You are a single, insignificant atom in this immense, morbid organism, utterly at its mercy. This collective hunger, this shared thrill for such a grim occasion, it makes you question, doesn't it, the curious, darker currents that run beneath the surface of civilization. How easily a crowd can transform from a collection of individuals into a singular, unthinking entity drawn by the rawest, most primitive instincts. The roar continues, an unsettling reminder of the profound, often chilling power of human spectacle. The roar of the crowd has swelled, carrying you with it, until you're pressed against the sweating backs of strangers. The air is now thick with the cloying sweetness of stale gin, the sour tang of cheap tobacco, and the inescapable, earthy smell of damp, unwashed bodies. You can taste the grit of the street on your tongue, and the pervasive cold, though lessened by the crush of humanity, still finds its way into your bones. You're close enough now. The scaffold looms, a stark, brutal silhouette against the grey, damp sky. Its rough-hewn timbers, dark with age and weather, seem impossibly solid, an immovable focal point in this swirling chaos. Above, the thick, oiled rope hangs, a silent, menacing question mark. You can make out the grim-faced officials, their dark coats a somber contrast to the pallid faces of the throng below. A hawker's cry slices through the air, surprisingly clear amidst the din. Programs, get your programs air, all the details a penny apiece. His voice, raspy and urgent, is a stark reminder of the grim commerce surrounding this ultimate spectacle. You watch as a grimy hand reaches out, a single coin glinting briefly, exchanged for the morbid details of a life about to end. Death, it seems, is worth a penny. Your gaze is drawn to the figure upon the platform, a blurred shape against the backdrop of the Newgate wall. They stand still, unnervingly so. The drum begins to beat again, a slow, heavy thud that reverberates in your chest, in the soles of your feet, counting down the final, precious seconds. A collective gasp sweeps through the crowd, a vast, indrawn breath. Then, a sharp, terrible crack. The noise is swallowed by the sudden guttural roar that erupts from the multitude, a sound of both release and satisfaction. You flinch, your eyes squeezed shut for a moment, the taste of metallic fear sharp in your mouth. When you open them, the rope swings, a chilling pendulum. The crowd, though still roaring, begins to shift, to disperse, their morbid hunger temporarily sated. This raw, brutal display, this public consumption of a life's end, it lays bare a grim truth, doesn't it? That for some, a life is merely a penny's worth of entertainment, a fleeting diversion in the ceaseless grind. It makes you question the price of human existence, and the hunger that drives us to witness such finality, standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers in the unforgiving cold, all for a hanging. You're enveloped, not by the London fog this time, but by something far more oppressive, a thick, suffocating mantle of heavy black crepe. It clings to your skin, absorbing every stray photon, muffling every sound, and trapping the faint, sickly sweet aroma of lilies and stale perfume around you. The fabric feels coarse, unyielding, a physical manifestation of the crushing grief that permeates this house. It's not merely clothing, it's a second skin of sorrow. You stand in a parlor, a room swallowed whole by shadows, despite the meager light from a single gas lamp turned low. Every surface is draped in black, the windows, the mantelpiece, even the mirror. It's a visual void, a landscape devoid of color, of joy, of life. The air is cold, still, carrying a faint, musty scent of damp wool and old wood, mingling with the funereal flowers. You can almost taste the pervasive melancholy, bitter and dry on your tongue. The sound, or lack thereof, is unsettling. Footsteps fall silently on carpet, voices are hushed to barely audible murmurs, and even breathing seems to be stifled. You hear the faint, rhythmic rustle of other heavy mourning clothes as figures move ghost-like through the gloom. A stifled sob, quickly choked back, cuts through the quiet, a raw testament to raw pain that cannot be fully contained, even by the ironclad rules of Victorian mourning. You watch as a woman, her face entirely hidden by a thick black veil, turns her head, her posture rigid with an unspoken anguish. Her hands, encased in black gloves, are clasped tightly together, trembling almost imperceptibly. There's no eye contact, no shared words, only a profound, communal silence that speaks of an unbearable loss, a collective weight of sorrow that presses down on everyone in the room. Each movement, each whispered word, feels like a transgression against the overwhelming solemnity. This heavy, all-consuming silence, this suffocating veil of black, it makes you realize, doesn't it, how powerfully grief can be externalized, how ritual and expectation can shape the very expression of human pain. And how sometimes the deepest sorrows are those that are forced into silent, somber display, hidden beneath layers of crepe and an unspoken etiquette. a silence far louder than any scream. The air is heavy, thick with the cloying, overripe scent of lilies and the stale, medicinal aroma of something meant to mask decay. It's a scent that prickles your nose, catching at the back of your throat, a sweet deception trying desperately to cover a stark, chilling reality. You step into a room hushed into a profound, unnatural silence, the heavy velvet drapes drawn tight against the outside world, absorbing all sound. Your eyes, accustomed to the gloom, finally focus on the scene. In the center, illuminated by the cold, diffused light from a photographer's large, cumbersome camera, is a tableau. A small child, no more than 3 or 4 years old, sits propped on an ornate chair, a favorite doll clutched in tiny, lifeless fingers. Their eyes are open yet disturbingly vacant, fixed on some unseen point beyond the lens. A faint, waxy pallor has settled upon the delicate features, an unnatural stillness in the cheeks. You feel a profound, visceral chill, a cold that has nothing to do with the room's temperature. It's the cold touch of absolute stillness, of life departed, unnaturally posed. Around the child, a family gathers, their faces a canvas of profound grief, yet rigid with an almost desperate determination to appear calm. A woman, presumably the mother, her face a pale, tear-streaked mask, reaches out, her gloved hand gently adjusting a tiny lace collar on the child's dress. Her touch is feather-light, trembling, a desperate attempt to nurture what is already lost. The photographer, a solemn figure draped in a dark cloth behind his camera, remains utterly still, a silent, grim artist. You can hear the shallow, ragged breaths of the family, a collective intake of air punctuated by the occasional, barely audible sniffle. There's a faint, metallic scent in the air from the developing chemicals perhaps, a stark counterpoint to the lilies, a taste of fleeting permanence. The silence is profound, heavy with unspoken sorrows, with the desperate yearning to capture one last, perfect image. The click of the camera is a sharp, jarring sound, amplified in the hushed reverence, a tiny, brutal punctuation mark in the heavy silence. It's the sound of a moment frozen, a desperate grasp at eternity. This somber ritual, this peculiar dance with death, it makes you confront, doesn't it, the extraordinary lengths to which the human heart will go to hold on to memory, to deny the ultimate finality. To arrange the beloved dead as if they merely sleep, a poignant, chilling attempt to defy oblivion, even if only in a fragile, fading photograph. The cold, it's an invading force not just in the air but seeping up from the very ground beneath your boots, a raw, biting dampness that travels from your soles right into your bones. You're on the Thames shore, or rather, asterisk in asterisk it, the riverbank dissolving into a treacherous expanse of black, greasy sludge. Your boots sink with a soft, sucking sound, each step a reluctant departure from the clinging, viscous mud. The smell is immediate, overwhelming. It's the raw, unfiltered breath of the river, putrid, metallic and cloying. 1,000 forgotten things, decaying fish, stagnant sewage, industrial effluent, all coalesced into one potent, sickening aroma that catches in your throat, a constant, bitter taste on your tongue. The fog here is denser, heavier, a murky yellow-grey blanket that presses down, blurring the boundary between air and water, between land and liquid corruption. You reach out a gloved hand, steadying yourself against a barnacle-encrusted timber, its surface slick and cold beneath your touch, leaving a gritty residue on your leather. The water, a dark, churning mass barely visible through the mist, laps with a low, persistent groan against the shore. It's an ancient, hungry sound, a constant reminder of the unseen current dragging beneath the surface, pulling everything into its murky depths. Your eyes strain against the gloom, trying to discern shapes in the muck. Twisted fragments of metal, sodden scraps of fabric, the glint of broken glass, the detritus of a vast city regurgitated onto its shores. Each piece is a silent, grim testament to a life, a moment, a discarded truth. A particularly dark, irregular shape catches your eye, half submerged, almost swallowed by the viscous mud. You prod it with the toe of your boot, a cold shiver running up your spine at the unexpected give. This is London's underbelly laid bare, isn't it? The great river, a silent, unforgiving witness, collecting all the city's forgotten secrets, its hidden miseries. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what else lies buried in this cold sludge, waiting for the shifting tides to reveal its silent, terrible tale? How much truth can such a place hold before it simply gives way to the inevitable flow? Your boots continue to sink into the cold, viscous sludge of the Thames shore, each step a squelching protest. The pervasive smell of decay, wet earth and industrial effluvium clings to your nostrils, a truly sickening aroma that you can practically taste, gritty and metallic on your tongue. The fog, a dense yellow-grey blanket, presses in, muffling the distant city, making the already treacherous ground even more disorienting. Then you see her. A small figure no older than 10, hunched over the glistening mud, her ragged coat indistinguishable from the grime. She moves with a practiced, almost feral grace, her bare, chapped hands deftly sifting through the river's detritus. Her movements are quick, precise, entirely focused. You can feel the sharp, biting cold of the water that must be seeping into her thin clothes, the relentless damp that gnaws at exposed skin. You watch her reach into a particularly foul-looking patch of black mud, her fingers disappearing entirely. A moment of intense stillness, then her hand re-emerges, clutching something small and dark. She brings it close to her face, her eyes sharp and intense, scrutinizing the object. Even from this distance, you can discern the faint glimmer of something hard, something perhaps metallic, contrasting sharply with the dull sheen of the river's refuse. It could be anything: a button, a shard of pottery, or a tiny, improbable coin. Her face, smudged with dirt and streaked with the cold, is a mask of grim determination, utterly devoid of childish innocence. This is not play. This is survival. Her breath plumes in the frigid air as she quickly tucks her find into a small, grimy pouch hanging from her belt, her movements quick, almost furtive. She casts a swift, calculating glance around, her gaze momentarily brushing yours before darting back to the mud, a silent acknowledgement of shared existence in this harsh landscape. The river laps with its low, hungry groan, a constant, chilling soundtrack to this desperate, tireless search. This small child, bent over the city's refuse, embodies a raw, relentless will to live, to extract sustenance from the very waste of a sprawling metropolis. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit, particularly in its most vulnerable forms, and how even in the darkest, most desolate places, hope can still be found, perhaps in the glint of a discarded treasure. This mudlark and her tiny find are a profound testament to the unyielding grip of life, even on the coldest, most unforgiving of shores. The hiss, that's the first thing you truly notice, a soft, persistent whisper in the thick, damp air. It's the sound of gas escaping, burning, a quiet, almost domestic sigh in the vast, churning breath of London. You're standing on a quiet side street far from the main thoroughfares, where the fog holds unchallenged dominion, blurring every outline. Then the light. A soft, sickly yellow glow blossoms from the ornate iron lamp standard directly ahead, battling bravely against the encroaching grey. It's not bright, not sharp, but a warm, almost watery luminescence that struggles to pierce the oppressive gloom. The light catches the swirling particles of damp soot in the air, transforming them into dancing, ephemeral motes, a tiny, hypnotic galaxy in miniature. You can almost feel the gentle heat radiating from the glass globe, a fragile warmth in the pervasive chill. The smell of the gas is faint here, a subtle, almost sweet undertone beneath the heavy damp and the omnipresent coal smoke. It's a clean, industrial scent, a promise of modern comfort in a city otherwise steeped in ancient grime. You reach out a gloved hand, the leather cold against the air, and feel the faint warmth emanating from the lamp's globe. It's a small, tangible anchor in this disorienting sea of mist. The glow casts long, wavering shadows that stretch and shrink with every imperceptible shift in the fog. Familiar buildings become distorted, their brickwork a vague, indistinct mass, their upper floors lost entirely to the swirling grey. The lamp itself seems like a lone sentinel, a fragile beacon in a world on the cusp of disappearing. The hiss, a constant, comforting sound, becomes a pulse, a subtle heartbeat in the overwhelming silence of the fog. You watch as a moth, drawn by the fragile light, flutters erratically around the globe, its tiny shadow dancing wildly on the brickwork before vanishing into the deeper darkness. It's a fleeting moment of life, a brief, desperate attraction to the warmth and light. This delicate balance, this constant struggle of light against darkness, of warmth against cold, it makes you ponder, doesn't it? How much we rely on these small, manufactured comforts, these fragile beacons, to navigate the profound, often terrifying mysteries of the world around us. The hiss and glow of this lamp are more than just utility. They are a quiet testament to enduring hope in the vast, encroaching darkness. The gaslight now directly before you hisses its low, continuous sigh. Its fragile yellow glow, once a gentle comfort in the overwhelming fog, now feels like a stark, almost accusatory eye in the deepening gloom. The air around it, thick with damp soot, takes on sickly hues of yellow and green, swirling with an ethereal, almost predatory dance. The light struggles, pushing back against the encroaching grey, yet in doing so, it seems to draw the shadows in closer, making the darkness beyond its reach feel denser, more absolute, more menacing. You lean against the cold, grimy brickwork of a building, feeling the damp seep through your coat, and observe the narrow, cobbled street. The gaslight illuminates only a small, trembling circle, a precarious island of visibility in a vast, formless ocean of mist. Within this fleeting circumference, shapes emerge with unsettling clarity, the wet sheen on the cobblestones reflecting the light in distorted smears, a discarded, sodden newspaper, its headlines unreadable, clinging to the gutter. The intricate, almost grotesque carving on a nearby door which just moments ago was swallowed whole by the fog, but the light doesn't merely reveal, it plays tricks. The shadows it casts are long, elongated, turning innocuous street furniture into crouching, watchful figures. A sudden gust of wind, a cold breath from the swirling mass makes the gas flame flicker wildly, plunging the edges of the circle into deeper shadow, and for a fleeting instant you could swear you see movement, a tall, cloaked figure, dissolving back into the absolute blackness as the flame steadies. Your heart gives a sharp, involuntary jolt against your ribs. Your gaze sweeps across the small, illuminated faces that occasionally pass through the gaslight's embrace. They are drawn, pale features, often etched with worry or haste, their eyes wide and darting, constantly peering into the depths of the impenetrable mist beyond the light. You catch the fleeting, fearful glance of a woman, her hand clutching a small parcel to her chest, her pace quickening as she passes out of the circle of light and into the unseen. She does not look back. Each figure seems eager to escape the revealing gaze of the lamp, or perhaps terrified of what the light might show, what it might attract. The pervasive dampness of the fog, mingling with the subtle, oily smell of burning gas, creates an almost claustrophobic atmosphere within this small, illuminated pocket. The light, for all its promise of safety, suddenly feels like a spotlight, drawing unwelcome attention, making you feel exposed. It's a strange thing, isn't it? This interplay of light and shadow in a city like London, where the very act of illumination can heighten fear, transforming the unknown darkness into something even more terrifying than the visible. This fragile glow, it paints the night not just with light, but with the chilling brushstrokes of apprehension. The soft, rhythmic scuff of your own boots on the damp cobblestones has become a familiar, almost comforting sound in this unending London fog. It's a quiet reassurance of your presence, your movement through the city's grey arteries. But then you hear it, a distinct, subtle asterisk tap asterisk, not yours. It's too faint, too precise, a sound almost swallowed by the heavy air, yet utterly separate from your own muffled progress. You freeze, your breath catching in your throat. The cold, damp air instantly feels heavier, pressing in on you. Your ears strain, trying to pinpoint the source, to separate it from the pervasive silence that the fog seems to create. You taste the sudden, dry metallic tang of unease, sharp and unsettling. Your heart begins to beat a little faster, a soft, insistent thump against your ribs. You glance over your shoulder, peering into the swirling, milky grey that clings to every brick and lamp post. Nothing, only the vague, indistinct outline of a leaning building, its upper floors lost entirely to the mist. The silence stretches, profound and expectant, broken only by the erratic drip of water from an unseen gutter, each drop a tiny, jarring punctuation. Then again, that faint, deliberate asterisk tap. It's closer now, just barely perceptible yet undeniable. It sounds like a cane, perhaps, or a hard-soled shoe striking a flagstone. It's too regular, too intentional to be mere debris. A shiver traces its way up your spine, a cold prickle of apprehension. The hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. You're not alone. You quicken your pace, a sudden urgency propelling you forward, your own footsteps now loud and clumsy in your ears. You half expect to see a figure materialize from the swirling tendrils behind you, a dark silhouette emerging from the formless grey. But nothing appears. Only the relentless, unwavering presence of the fog and the unnerving knowledge that the sound, though unseen, remains. It's an auditory ghost, a presence felt only through the subtle displacement of the heavy air. This chilling, elusive sound, it makes you question, doesn't it, how much of our fear is born from what we cannot see, what we cannot definitively identify, especially when the world around us conspires to hide it. The true terror lies not always in the visible monster, but in the unseen footstep that follows just beyond the reach of your sight. The smell is what finally breaks through the pervasive damp and soot of the London fog, cutting like a knife through the stale air. It's a sharp, sickly sweet tang, overlaid with something acrid, metallic, and profoundly, unmistakably wrong. It's the scent of life violently extinguished, of blood still warm enough to steam, mingled with the unsettling odor of raw fear. Your stomach lurches, a cold dread coiling in your gut, and the metallic taste of it coats your tongue, thick and repulsive. You've been moving cautiously, the elusive sound of a footstep that wasn't yours still prickling at the back of your neck. Now, as the smell intensifies, you push through a particularly dense bank of the milky grey mist, your hand reaching out instinctively, blindly. Your fingers brush against something cold, something yielding, something terribly soft. You recoil with a gasp, a primal shudder tearing through you. As the fog swirls and momentarily parts, a grim tableau emerges from the gloom. A figure slumped against the grimy brickwork of a narrow alley, their form eerily still, impossibly limp. The gaslight, a distant, sickly yellow glow, offers little illumination, merely painting the scene in distorted shades of grey and shadow. You can just discern the rough texture of a dark, heavy coat, now matted and stained, and a startling splash of crimson that gleams wetly against the dull fabric, a vivid, brutal contrast that screams its truth. Your eyes, wide and unblinking, trace the lines of the body, the unnatural angle of a limb, the still, outstretched hand. It's a grotesque stillness, a sudden final cessation of all movement. The air around the body feels colder, a pockets of profound chill that seems to emanate from the very act of death itself. Your breath catches, shallow and ragged, in your throat. You taste the sharp, metallic tang of the spilt blood, thick and cloying as if the very air itself is weeping. There's no sound here, no struggle, no last gasp, only the oppressive, heavy silence of the fog, broken by the frantic hammering of your own heart against your ribs. You peer closer, discerning the pale, upturned face, its features obscured by shadow and a terrible, gaping wound that darkens the cheek. The eyes are open, wide and staring, fixed on nothing but the swirling, indifferent grey above. This is a hidden murder, isn't it? A life taken and swallowed by the city's endless shadow, concealed by the very elements. You feel the cold seep into your bones, not just from the damp alley, but from the stark, brutal reality before you. It makes you realize, doesn't it, how fragile life truly is, and how easily a desperate act, a violent end, can be absorbed and hidden by the vast, indifferent breath of London, leaving only the chilling scent of its dark, unspeakable truth. You breathe deeply, a conscious, deliberate intake of air, and the first thing you notice is its utterly unexpected quality. It's cold, yes, but with a sharp, crisp edge, cutting through the stale, damp soot that has clung to your lungs for so long. There's a startling freshness to it, a subtle, almost sweet scent of damp earth and nascent promise, entirely devoid of the river's foul breath or the city's grim effluvium. It's a clean breath, a bracing, invigorating shock that makes your nostrils prickle and your eyes sting, but with clarity rather than irritation. The oppressive yellow-grey shroud of the London fog, which has been your constant, suffocating companion, is finally, irrevocably in retreat. Not a sudden disappearance, but a slow, graceful withdrawal. It's dissolving, breaking apart into ethereal, wispy tendrils, swirling and coiling like departing ghosts before fading into nothingness. Above, for the first time in what feels like an age, you can discern patches of sky, a pale, pearlescent grey at first, then bleeding into a tentative, ethereal pink and gold at the horizon. A new light, weak yet undeniably present, begins to push back the pervasive darkness, painting the upper reaches of the buildings with a fragile, hopeful glow. The city's incessant chorus, which yesterday seemed a crushing weight, is still there, but it's distant, softer, clearer. The dull roar of traffic is muffled, less aggressive. You hear the sharp, clear call of a lone bird, a sound that pierces the lingering quiet with startling purity, followed by the faint, insistent clatter of a milkman's cart on a far-off street. Each sound feels distinctly separate, less a chaotic symphony and more a series of individual notes in the nascent song of a waking city. The relentless drip of water from unseen gutters still echoes, but now it merely punctuates the quiet, rather than dominating it. You feel a new cold against your cheeks, a biting chill that invigorates rather than chills to the bone. It's the crisp, almost metallic tang of morning frost, tightening your skin, awakening dormant senses. The dampness on the cobblestones beneath your boots still makes them slick, but the viscous grime of yesterday seems to have washed away, leaving behind a cleaner, if still cold, surface. You lift your head, turning your face towards the burgeoning light, letting the cool air wash over you. A lone figure emerges from a darkened doorway across the street, an early riser, their silhouette no longer a distorted phantom, but a clear, sharp form against the emerging dawn. They pause, stretching, a simple human gesture of greeting the new day, their breath pluming in the crisp air before they disappear around a corner, their footsteps no longer muffled by the fog but clear, distinct, fading into the distance. It's a moment of clarity, a stark contrast to the shadowy figures of the night. This profound change, this almost spiritual clearing of the air, makes you realize, doesn't it, how much of our perception, our very sense of being, is inextricably linked to the light. How the mere promise of a new dawn can sweep away the accumulated weight of shadows, of hidden horrors, offering a fresh start, a clean slate, even if only for a brief, hopeful moment before the city truly awakens. This first clean breath, this emerging light, it feels like a silent, powerful benediction. The fog, that suffocating blanket, is finally in full retreat. It's not gone entirely, but it has lifted, broken apart into translucent, ethereal wisps that drift like ghosts between the rooftops before melting into the pale, watery sky. You draw a deep breath, and while the air is still cold, still damp, it carries a new, subtle sting of freshness, cutting through the stale grit that has coated your lungs for hours. But the taste of it, that bitter, smoky residue of the night, still clings stubbornly to your tongue, a lingering phantom of the darkness. The city, revealed in this fragile morning light, looks weary, bruised. What the fog so kindly obscured, the dawn now lays bare. The cobblestones, no longer swallowed by the swirling grey, are slick with a greasy film of soot and condensation, reflecting the nascent light in dull, oily smears. Every crack, every stain on the brickwork, every sagging window frame stands out with stark, unforgiving clarity. The grandeur of a distant edifice looks less majestic, more grimy, its ornate carvings streaked with black. You pass a dark alleyway, now stripped of its obscuring veil. Yesterday it might have hidden untold secrets. Today it simply reveals a heap of sodden refuse, a broken crate, and a patch of glistening black mud, reflecting the grey sky like a tiny, still pool. The lingering stench of stale beer and something vaguely rotten wafts out, a final, ungracious farewell from the receding darkness. Your stomach clenches, a familiar, unwelcome sensation. Faces begin to emerge from doorways, drawn and pale, some still etched with the strain of a sleepless, anxious night. They move with a quiet, almost reluctant pace, their eyes darting, adjusting to the sudden, almost overwhelming clarity. You catch the weary gaze of a hawker, his breath pluming in the crisp air as he pushes his cart through the still damp streets, his call muted, lacking the usual vigor. There's a shared sense of muted relief, yes, but also a lingering apprehension, a knowledge that what the fog once hid, the daylight now illuminates with harsh, unsparing truth. The city hums, but it's a softer, more tentative sound than yesterday's roar, as if London itself is collectively clearing its throat, stretching after a long, difficult sleep. But even with the fog lifting, the chill in your bones remains, a deep, persistent ache. It's a tangible reminder that even when the darkness retreats, its passage leaves an indelible mark, doesn't it? The city might breathe a little clearer now, but the scars of the fog and the echoes of the night linger beneath the surface, whispering their grim stories in the cold, hard light of dawn.